Checking. 1, 2. How are you?
I'm good.
You got the water bottle and also a coffee at, what time is it in Sarasota, Florida? 9:15, 9:40?
9:15 because we're going downtown.
We are going downtown. Everybody, can you shout out your own account?
This is hilarious. It's like it's the news. We're going downtown.
Wait, no. But can you shout out your own account? We would like to shout out our account from our quick sponsor, which is us, Actual Intelligence.
It's prompt.
Comment prompt. But no, we're going to be posting every single Friday and Saturday on Twitch from, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m.?
Yeah, 11 to 1 every single Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah.
We'll be either in Sarasota, St. Pete, Tampa, maybe Miami one time or two. Just
that would be cool.
Kind of fun.
And St. Pete is nearby. There was a beach that we also need to go to. What place is that? What's that beach? It's like 20 minutes away from where we're at. No address is being disclosed,
are you talking about
guys.
Siesta Key?
Yes, Siesta Key.
Okay, nice.
So, yeah, we'll go to those
Siesta
locations.
Key's
Now,
really
you were
nice.
talking about this comment prompt thing. What was that? What's the comment
Dude,
prompt?
You know what comment
I do know, but I'm assuming that the viewer may not know. So give us a little explanation.
You know what they're doing. I mean, they're sitting there and they post some long YouTube video or Instagram video, basically completely, I don't know, edging you is not the word, but it's almost like limited hangout of information.
Right. Yeah.
And then they just say comment prompt. Or I saw Nate Herc the other day. He was like comment slave.
I saw that. Yeah, that was
so
that was
stupid.
I was wondering whether AI has began automating, because this is normal capability nowadays for an AI to be able to at least edit and augment your videos through a platform like Higgsfield, and then run a loop until it passes some threshold where it's like, okay, the video looks good. Nate Herc checks it and is like, send through Telegram. Do you think that's how it works? And it was just like a byproduct of an accident where it was like comment slave. Like what? Like why did it say comment slave?
I mean, Nate Herc, I think it was yesterday. He definitely did it when Fable 5 first came out in June 9th through June 12th. But then I saw he did it again, I think yesterday.
He said comment slave again?
No.
No, I was joking. I was joking.
He made a video straight up. There was no human intervention called upon.
Wow.
So no massaging at all. He basically just used HeyGen's API key and 11 Labs as a byproduct of that, and trained it on his prior videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And it got all the animations, liquid glass, graphs in the video that he usually would do, and he's sitting there talking this is not me, Nate Herc. This is Fable 5, but it's it looks like it's him saying it.
So it got a UGC character of himself.
Basically, but it was more than that, because it was even the way the video was edited, which just it freaks me out a lot, and I'm sure you too, because it's where is this going to go within videos on YouTube, right? Content creation. Where's this going to go with movies, right? On Netflix, right? Because it's constant collecting algorithmic data on what your specific preferences are.
What, Claude?
No, Instagram.
Oh,
Instagram, Netflix does it.
Right.
I mean, everybody does it. Facebook does
course,
it. Snapchat
LinkedIn.
even has it a little bit.
Every company.
Exactly. If you're not doing it, I mean, you're not a good social media company.
Yeah,
set up.
exactly.
But my fear is that it gets to a point where, because if this is where it is now, right, we know about the exponential of technology. We know about how it compounds and gets better exponentially. So my fear slash perception of where this is going to go in the future is you're literally going to log on to Netflix. I just commented to this to somebody on LinkedIn. You're going to log on to Netflix, and it's not going to be Happy Madison films by Adam Sandler created Happy Gilmore and like you're watching Happy Gilmore and you like Happy Gilmore. It will know that you like comedy films and you also kind of, like crime films or whatever the case is, and it will make you a movie from scratch, like using AI from nothing because it knows exactly what you want.
You know what's interesting is recently I've seen, so I was scrolling on social media, and what I've seen a ton is a son who's around our age, from 20 to 25, who's using AI to not leverage or automate their business or their homework or whatever it is, but to prank their grandparents. So the grandfather or some old adult who's not aware about AI, like young adults are, will create a video of their, let's say their grandpa taking off his shirt, shaking his belly, and then jumping into a lake, and they'll just put that in amongst a Happy Gilmore film. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's just, you were talking about like the merging of AI.
Wait, they'll put it like in the movie?
Yeah. So they have a movie. They like, I don't know how they crop it, but they go on Netflix, they log in, watch the Happy Gilmore film, and then let's say as soon as he's about to hit the ball into the window where the person falls off, it stops. And instead of a jump scare, it's his or her literal grandma or grandfather shaking their stomach, and the grandfather's bewildered, completely confused as to how this was on Netflix. For one, they think their data got leaked, talking about security risks, and I've seen it all. It's really funny, but no.
Wait,
seriously.
is this where they're like in the store and they show them? Have you seen that?
I have seen those.
Where it's like
those I like that content.
They're in
The Hypnotist. Have you seen that one?
No.
Oh my gosh. These, again, it's older folks who don't know about AI. The young folk will hypnotize them, and then the other person comes in. So it requires two people in the prank. And the other person comes in and say, hey, was this guy trying to hypnotize you? Guy's like, yeah, he was. And then they show them a video of, again, let's say them taking their shoes off, their shirt off in the store and making loud, atrocious noises. And the person's like, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They show them like in Lowe's or something like doing that.
It's hilarious. I think those are like great. I have done the pranks on one of my buddies. Highly recommend that everyone does that, by the way.
Those take the pressure off of, I think, a lot of the fear that's like surrounding AI.
Agreed.
It's like when that happens, because I mean, like even our generation, I don't know if you've seen, but there are a bunch of videos coming out, like the former CEO of Google, where he's giving
Larry Davis or the other person?
I can't remember. Okay. Older guy. He's like giving the speech at the graduation ceremony for Arizona, and like the entire stadium starts like booing. When he starts talking about AI.
That's the new CEO, and he did it at Stanford. I saw that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's the new CEO. He has glasses, and I saw a biopic of him. He started as the person, I'm pretty sure, who published an AI strategy that used the triangle strategy to like feed data. I don't know how to describe it, but he worked at the company for 18 years, became the CEO, and at Stanford, they were all booing him because he was talking about how AI is so important for them to integrate into this new world.
I know it wasn't just like Stanford or Arizona. There were a lot of universities this year where our generation of graduates were like booing emphatically.
Did you get
them out of the stadium
at Ole Miss?
Talking about AI.
Did you graduated from Ole Miss last year?
In 2025.
Did they talk about AI at all?
I didn't go. So I didn't go. I didn't go to the graduation. It was AJ Brown did the like. Do you know who AJ Brown is?
Is he a football player?
Yeah, he's a wide receiver now for New England Patriots.
Wow.
But he was a former Ole Miss football player. He did the graduation ceremony. I really just didn't have much interest to see, what a football player was going to give me for advice going into the real world. I feel, granted.
That's very fair.
Like, sports football players, like, they know what's up when it comes to like hard work and being very persevering. 100%. I'm not like saying that they don't. I'm just saying, when you kind of have to attune yourself to, I may possibly have to, go and work in a career I don't necessarily want to work in. How am I going to do that? You know, like for me,
Like
I don't know
AI.
about you, but if I was good enough, I could play football, I could play baseball, like
Sure.
all day long. I would love to.
Yeah.
So I just didn't, number one, I couldn't motivate myself to get up for it, but also number two, I just didn't see as much value in it, if that makes sense. No
Yeah.
knock on AJ Brown, just for the situation.
Whenever I had my graduation, and just to any young person out there, I know we're deviating from our normal talk about AI, but we did this ceremony in high school where we didn't stay up all night per se, but we met the day of graduation, and we just said some words to each other about how we felt through high school. And I took this methodology. It has some importance here, or correlation. With my new roommates in college, we set ourselves to stay up all night the day before graduation, to hang out, to talk. And then we all went into a room and sat down. We're above 21. We grabbed we had some stuff. And
In high school, you're above 21?
no, in college, like
Okay,
as
I
a
was
senior.
say.
And we all sat around the table, we're all graduating, and we discussed with one another the moments, the highs, the lows, and we kind of just went and talked around for about an hour or two. And then, the first guy's graduation is at 8, mine was at 4, so I took a nap before because we stayed up all night and I was completely exhausted. But I think what do you think about that framework of like kind of a reflection / ceremony before?
No, I think that's really important. I don't know if you saw recently where Fable 5 kind of went viral when it was out June 9th through June 12th. Somebody asked it if you had one piece of advice you could give to the human generation or the human population, like what would it be? And its response is that humans basically need to reflect more and they should be journaling their thoughts. So I think reflection, even the most powerful LLM in the world thinks it's important. Right. So I definitely think reflection is very important, and to ground yourself like where you're at.
Yeah, and I read the book I'm listening, as you would say. I'm listening to the book of Elon. I was just driving somewhere, and even Elon mentioned that he's
got a book?
It's not a book, but it's a book about him. So it's an entire library of the quotes.
What is that called? A
biopic?
Yeah, a biopic.
I don't know. It's not an
It's not a biography.
Or an autobiography.
Okay, it's a biopic, yeah.
And the whole message was he didn't spend enough time not only reflecting, but cherishing moments with his team. And he even mentioned one explicit example, or at least this comes from the book, so I assume it's accurate, where he wishes that he was on the beach one time with his team, and he didn't even get a drink, sit for 1 second. Even on the beach, you don't need to bring a lounge chair. That takes too much time if you don't have one. But just to enjoy a second of, like, what's that saying? Like, sniff the flowers, or there's something like smell the roses. Right.
Yeah.
Where even these leaders that we see in society don't have that framework integrated into them
you and I are
sometimes.
doing it right now. There are definitely like moments where me and you are going to need to like kind of stop and enjoy the view, because
sure.
you can keep climbing and climbing and climbing, but you're climbing to the top of a mountain and it's like, okay, you need to take a second and just like look out and be like, wow, like I built this from nothing. Like,
right.
We really built this from nothing.
Okay, yeah, I got a question for you actually. Do you mind providing us with not the specific details of how your leads are going or the product cycles, etc., but actually the products that you've been able to generate? I didn't mean product cycle, I meant the sales cycle. I'm sorry. But what products have you been able to build with AI? I know you started Fanalytics, which you had an assumption about the market, so you decide to dilute the brand. Is that correct? Dilute or just disintegrate completely?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily like diluted. I think it's a really good project if it expanded into a different kind of parallel, if you will. But basically what we did is we compiled quantitative and qualitative data from social media, right? So from Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all these different platforms. and were able to give predictive insights into what was going to work based on what their audience was asking for.
Wow.
Asking for or was working, right? And what I kind of realized was, is if you touch Claude like one time and use Claude Code and start understanding how this thing is working and also understand the exponential of technology and how much better. I mean, this thing was a chatbot in 2022 when it got released. What is it now? It is literally coding apps from start to finish. Now, of course, the harness and all that stuff is extremely important, and it's not just the model and all that stuff, but this thing was a chatbot in 2022, and you're now able to build a somewhat working software as a service. So my thought process was, okay, like, I need to move away from this because this is going to become extremely obsolete, and it's no longer going to be the moat. It's going to be the idea and how you execute from a go-to-market strategy and also a marketing and sales standpoint. And funny enough, Fanalytics, as it's built, you're actually able to do in Claude Cowork now. You're able to build the dashboard, build the constant fetching. You're able to connect. I think it's called superhuman metrics or something. I did it.
Is that just is that a data library?
It's similar to Appify.
And so Appify is basically a library where you can analyze competitors' videos, posts, and just scrape that data.
Yep. It scrapes all the qualitative and quantitative data,
right.
And then you can ask it questions about it. So you can ask questions about your data. You can give a calendar where you're literally sitting there and saying, I want you to go look within the niche that my content is in. I want you to go look into my competitors. I want you to also put this into a dashboard and make it so that I can ask questions about it, and it will do everything for you.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you mentioned to me, at least before we began Actual Intelligence, that you didn't initially use Claude. You are very well versed in AI. I don't know. So 2 questions. It's multifaceted. You didn't use AI to build this, and you hired somebody, but he was in cybersecurity. I don't want to get too personal, but I believe it's important. You started off not using Claude, and then you began using Claude when, and how did it affect? Like because most people are identifying or hearing about AI, right? And I don't think a lot of people want to transfer, or maybe the youth, but how was that transfer? What did you notice? And was it beneficial? Or, talk me through that process.
Yeah, so that was a tough moment, I think, for both me and I'm not gonna say his name because course. People are private, whatever the case is. But that was a tough moment for myself and my CTO. I still have a great relationship with him, absolutely great guy. But we kind of just disagreed on a couple of things, and I had to deliver a product, and he kind of had a couple things that he was going through that were kind of personal matters, and I really obviously hope those things got resolved. Like, I do have a lot of care for him, and he's obviously doing absolutely great now. But I needed to deliver the product. So the only way that I could deliver the product, and I called you, I was like, how am I going to get this out to this university, and also in a somewhat secure way, because we're dealing with the university here. And you were like, have you tried Claude Code? Greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah. Claude Code's it's like the son that your father wish he had.
Yeah.
It's like the person who just, it's fun. It can do it can do everything except clean the weeds, which is usually what a dad is looking for on occasion. But yeah, back to what you were saying.
Codex is for cleaning the weeds, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we'll definitely touch on that. Yeah.
No, but I remember, I was kind of freaked out because I was like, Claude is It's an AI, right? It's an LLM. It's going to another server. So my proprietary information and application is now going to be going to another company that I
Right.
don't know that I want them to have it. But nevertheless, I had to get the product out.
What was the date? Like I've been in that scenario before where you're building a product. I was in CreateX, which is a Georgia Tech program. We had 2 weeks left to build the product and our CTO left. So I know the circumstance. How much time did you have? And what was the state of mind that you were in before you even realized that Claude was an option? Were you just like, I'm not going to be able to do this? Like, was it just a complete frantic state of mind? Because I bet people have been there before for homework, when you have a teacher who's telling you to do something except it's dumb and you just don't want to do it, but you got to get it done.
I've been
You know
there
what
before,
I mean?
yeah.
Shout out Theo Vaughn.
Dude, what?
We all know why his podcast went so popular. But anyway,
Who?
Theo Vaughn.
Why?
It's the random, is euphemisms or examples the right word? Where you just throw out, your dad had a bad day.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
beats you
He's
up.
really good at that.
He's so good. So I try to
where
incorporate
he's good is
that
like
in.
you can't like I don't feel like I could watch him all the way through.
I have, and I do continuously.
Like I can't, but his clips are funny.
They're hilarious.
I just can't watch him all the way through.
My sister always shows me the clips of him in the Drewski. I don't know why I called him the Drewski. Do people call him the Drewski or is it Drewski?
I think it's just Drewski.
You know his name's like Calvin.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, but Drewski's cool. I used to go by Big Dunk before I began a business and realized Drake is a better name compared to being called
Big Dunk.
Oh, I thought I could dunk. I was
Never
really
played
close.
basketball.
Yeah, it was all about, but I could dunk on a 7-foot
Wait,
rim.
so tell me, because I mean I kind of covered Fanalytics a little bit. Like I do kind of want you to.
Real quick, before, are you talking about cause and effect?
Yeah.
So, real quick, I want people to understand the specs. You said, I think you underestimated your product a little bit by saying that it could be built by AI, but you're clearly estimating and understanding that Claude is very powerful. I believe that your build, you mentioned a specific feature, which I don't want to mention because it could be private, but there was something about connecting players to agents. Was that ever a build that you were thinking of? Or finding them? Okay, it wasn't. Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, I just thought that was something you may have mentioned, which I thought was really cool. Anyways, I did cause and effect with one of my friends. So I was in college as a fifth year. Yes, I was a fifth year. It happens to some people. It's fine. And he was at our apartment and was telling us about this agency that he ran. And I know I'm about to use this word that Zach doesn't approve of, but it was a digital solution brand. And I know everyone says solutions nowadays, so I'll word it out for you. It was...
Well, you gotta. Why?
Why did I do it?
No. Why don't I like digital solutions?
Because it encompasses everything related to digital solutions.
Well,
that
partially,
could be
but
a
I think,
product
like-
that we're building.
Like, and I've said this to you, like, I think, digital solutions to me feels like 2012, you need your cell phone repaired and you're going to a store that, like, has some guy that has, like, cheese puff under his fingernails to come out.
The
and-
Geek Squad.
Not like Geek Squad, but it's like, it just feels like, to me, you
Yeah,
know?
it's you put beans in the top of your computer, call out a guy like that to fix it. You know what I mean?
Stripe.
You think that's a digital solution?
No, Stripe's a payment service, but they didn't call themselves payment solutions.
Exactly. So
You
Zach's
know?
definitely been the one who brands our business better than I do. But anyways, back on topic.
That's not what
I mean, you got nicer names
no.
compared to what I come up with. You would have been the guy who told Drewski to say Drewski.
Drewski. I don't
You
think
would have been
I'd
the
ever
person to
come up
tell
with
Young
Drewski.
Thug, you should say Young Thug.
I don't know about that one. That one's tough.
That's kind of, that's a pretty hard bar. His bars are hard. Anyway, So we sold SEO, CRM. CRM's a lead managing platform. So we sold those two websites, ads, and social media. And we got pretty deep into the business, and I proposed to my co-founder that he was talking about another tangent, which was, and I won't supply the specifics, but it was consulting for small businesses. And I wanted to provide a lens of the data architecture end, where I don't believe a lot of these small businesses are collecting and capturing enough data to determine the next best decision, if that makes sense, where they're really relying on impulsive motive to make the next best move for themselves. And in my mind, that does make sense. I'm sure a ton of companies in the 2000s and the 80s didn't have a data analyst, someone who was compiling data and then saying, okay, the trend says this. Maybe they did. I don't know.
They had data analysts.
You think they did?
But I mean, a lot of companies now have data analysts, but the problem is and you know this better than anybody. The problem is that's one person dealing with, filtration of the data. Right. Meanwhile, you have tens of systems that probably could use that data and do a lot better of a job.
Yes, I remember I was working on a project sophomore year, and it's difficult to come up with a summary because you're working from different sources. So even in the tangent that you may be going towards, where let's compile a library of data from all these different sources to come up with an outcome that we should make. Is that what you were saying? Because that makes sense. I'll give you an adversarial claim, because the data is never compiled the same way. It's like my brain doesn't think the same as yours. So if we're two separate companies compiling our data libraries through something called an API, which is basically like, hey, user who wants to access Appify or a competitive analysis platform for Facebook and Instagram, it can be for literally anything. You want to access that data, you go through an API. Their API endpoints are never going to be the same. So I think your point is valid, where if there was a system where you could cohesively and conveniently compile a ton of different data together to make decisions, that would be good. But there's still the barrier because companies and businesses compile data differently. I think that's just like a general term that still hasn't been solved yet. And I know that it's a bit of a tangent compared to the cause and effect. Anyways,
well, they're not. I think the problem is they're not utilizing their data. So they're either, number one, they're either not organizing it, so they have no idea where any of it is, or number two, they're not utilizing it for either the systems that they have or the systems that they could have.
Right.
So it's kind of multifaceted.
Yeah. And did you know there were like 8 steps in the data pipeline?
I had no idea. I mean, this is your, like, data architecture is your realm.
I'm even, again, it's sort of, we're learning on the go and on the fly. Like, you get your degree, but you're really learning from the topics you've had, but they never really apply because you're in college and the courses don't compare to real life, but you can see the patterns.
Dude, that's going to be crazy.
What?
Like, thinking about what college is going to be.
College? Because,
I mean, you already see so much, not necessarily like conjecture, but like you see a lot of conversation out there around like, you shouldn't go to college, there's no point in it, like this, that, and the other. And then you pair that, right, with what's going on in the workforce right now, where like barely anybody's able to get a job. So you have people with degrees that can't get a job, right? And the whole promise was you go to school, you pay your loans, you get a degree, and you get a job. Shout out
to all of our CS students out there. I know you're struggling right now. You'll find a job at the local Waffle House.
I think computer science students are going to be just fine.
You think so?
Yeah.
There's a computer scientist at Waffle House. They have that. You would never think that a Wendy's would have a software engineer, which I thought was weird.
You'll see some computer scientists that can't make it out, and then you'll see some computer scientists that crush.
100%.
And they'll crush because they will understand how to build foundationally. They will understand the code output, and they will understand the output that they're looking for, and basically how to guide Claude, whatever the LLM model is that is like writing the code for them. They'll basically understand exactly how to guide it so that it builds not just a house, but it builds a house that is sturdy and like any amount of wind won't push it over. Because I mean, we see a lot right now, like a lot of quote unquote vibe coders out there. They are they're not understanding, or they don't pick up on the certain nuances that are happening. So for example, security, right? There are a lot of vibe coders out there that probably put their API keys in the chat to Claude. Horrible practice.
You know what Claude tells me now is, when I did that before, it's of course like the ChatGPT 2 model where you could ask it to build you a bomb. It would say no, and then you say it's for a project, and it's like, well, sure, I'll provide you the instructions on how to make meth. And nowadays, Claude, Opus, what's the newest model? 4.8, I think, will actually tell
Fable
you
5.
into Fable 5. It will always tell you, hey, you dropped an API key in the chat. Don't do that. Which I thought was a pretty cool like security protocol that they implemented.
Well, yeah, I mean, I noticed that with Opus 4.6, actually.
Opus 4.6?
Yeah, like months ago, I remember it was like, okay, so now you need to go get the API key from wherever, and it was like, do not give it to me. And actually, what's funny enough is it will literally create the .env for you if you ask it, open it up for you, so on and so forth. I mean, what's really cool about Claude, even ChatGPT now with their new 5.6 Sol, Terra, and Luna, is if you ask it to, it will literally walk you through everything you need to do. Like, you can just say, hold my hand. Like, tell me every click, every step, every single thing I need to do to get there. And it will do a decent job. There are parts that take, one, a lot of massaging, and two, a lot of like repetitions.
Right.
Because when you're building these sites, but when you're building these products, you start to really understand, okay, like, how does it want me to talk to it? How can I utilize certain skills? How can I build this out in a way in which nothing is competing with itself? So I'm not having it working on tasks that are overwriting each other. And I am working on multiple tasks at one time, and you and I just talked about this, from building a vertical stack versus a horizontal stack. Mm-hmm. And I know you know a lot more than this than I do.
We've definitely iterated over this, because I've been so over the top about, I just found out this, I need to tell Zach.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing,
I'm glad that
it's like
you're talking about it now.
Well, once you kind of understand that the way that Claude works is very similar, because it is a real world product. It works the same way and I know this is very layman's terms that I'm about to give, but it works the same way in, side of the terminal or inside of the computer as it does in the real world, which is when you're building a house, right? You build the foundation first. You have to build the foundation first.
Right.
But
that's a good point.
After you build the foundation, you don't just go, okay, I have 20 workers. I'm going to build the bathroom, and then I'm going to build the other bathroom, and then I'm going to build the room, and then after that, I'm going to build the guest room, and so on and so forth.
And that's what Claude loves to do, is horizontal building.
You can say, you know what we're going to do instead is we're going to build all of those rooms at one time and then build the roof on top.
And I think a really interesting point there is, your analogy was spot on, because each room is independent. So when we go to push on the tiles or the window in the guest room, that's not going to affect if I push on the windows in the kitchen. And this analogy is really referring to when we provide and run test cases on our product. Did the button work? If I sign out and log in, will it work? And that's the interesting part, is because we built these rooms, we can test them independently compared to them being one mush, or we're all working on the same project and then we have to test, go through the process, and then deliver the next set of goods.
Yeah.
I think that's a really strong point. I would also
Sorry about that. It cut out there.
we just took a quick intermission.
Yeah, but
Totally
it
fine.
cut out.
Yeah. But anyways, what we were talking about is if you're not aware about what a env file is, it's where your environment variables are stored. So we mentioned the API keys previously. These are important information that can be, and you know, Zach's a huge cybersecurity enthusiast, especially in this day of age. In this area, you have to be very secure with your proprietary information, and that needs to be private. So you do not allow your AI to access that folder and see the specific keys that you're putting in. And these keys are just codes from the servers or softwares that you use, like Appify, that give you a code that says, hey, you can now use our site's API endpoint. So
yeah, I think the main reason is because, especially specific API keys, yes, like there's a lot of fear around. I think the main fear for a lot of people is like, oh no, they'll get my API key and then they'll drain my account, right? Mm-hmm. They'll just have my credit card basically at that point. And just use my Claude subscription. I mean, we saw it with what was it? Chipotle released like a bit of a like custom AI where like you could ask it about ordering Chipotle or about like what was in certain bowls, burritos, etc. And what somebody did was they were able to steal the API key. Simply, I think just from the HTML, like the front end facing part of their website.
And all you got to do that is, as a kid, we'd always
like literally click, right click, inspect element.
And I remember as kids, sorry to interrupt you, but I remember in kids in 9th grade, we would always change like the Times newsletter to be like, Zach Kelman found in the blank files, you know, and then you show your buddy who doesn't know what you did. And he's like, oh my God. They found me out. No, I'm joking. But go back to what you were saying about the Chipotle. They hacked through the chatbot, right? Or did they?
Yeah. So they hacked it. They took the API key. They started using it, and then they named. So they basically created an AI that anybody could use. And obviously, if you have the API key, you don't have to use Sonnet 4.6. You don't have to use a low model. You can be like, I want to use Fable 5, or I want to use like the best model ever, and just like drain all their money. And when you're Chipotle, right, and you're that big of a company, you don't necessarily see that bleeding very quickly, right? So they named it Chipotle AI.
Chipotle AI. That's good.
And anybody could use it. Obviously, they like shut it down now, but that's why like it is really important that whenever you're dealing with API keys, a lot of people think, you know, it is because of a situation like that. Yes, that's a problem. But I personally think a more main problem is like you can have literal like identity theft from an API key getting released.
Really?
Yes.
Identity theft.
You can have straight up identity theft.
How does that happen?
So they'll sell your API key.
Yes.
On the black market.
Oh, they've done that with Claude subscriptions.
And obviously your API key is connected to your account, which your account has your name, your email, sometimes your phone number, sometimes a lot of different information about you depending on what the application or website is that you're using. So putting an API key in chat like on the HTML is stupid.
It sounds like you're a little bit of your digital footprint. And a lot of people mention it because, oh, you may have posted something bad before and therefore you could have a situation in the future that leads you at fault. But also digital footprint in terms of the side of your API keys, your identity, what you've done. And it's kind of funny. You know how there's a lot of platforms out there that you pay for them and then they give you information about people because they have a library of people. Like whenever you're finding leads for a business, that basically sounds like a black market deal. Like that literally, like I'm paying you to give me
it's legal black market.
Yeah, a name, a number, a email, and all of that information is given to me. And then you call the guy and he's like, hey, who is this? And you're like, hey, I got you from the black market. And he's like, what? And that's
I mean,
how.
that basically happened to me, or not me, but
Do
whatever.
not sell your products that way, by the way, saying that I just found you on the black market. I'm here to help you, because that's dual-sided.
um, whatever guy had my phone number before me was just not responsible with it. The amount of times I get like text messages like, "Hey Paul,
Oh,
we would love your donation." I'm like, dude, I'm not Paul.
yeah.
Like,
It's like
leave me alone.
the neighbor or the person who previously lived in your house didn't fully move out or change their subscriptions or addresses. So all of their mail gets sent to your address. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey,
basically.
Daniel, do you still want to serve for the political campaign that's running in North Carolina? And it's like, no, I don't know Daniel. Why is this email being passed to
Oh, so
me?
you get those too?
Not digitally, but
Because
physically.
I get a lot of like political stuff
It's always
for
about,
Paul, and I'm like, dude, I've never
yeah,
like
I've
leave me
never
alone.
heard of this person. Maybe I
No, 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 dude, it happened today. I was at Best Buy, and I guess he had a Best Buy account, and I gave the Buy guy because I bought our what's it called? The not girdle. Oh shoot, what's it called?
you bought something.
Yeah, but what's it called? It holds the camera on your phone.
Oh, the apparatus.
No, it's like a spatial whatever. It's gonna drive me crazy though. I bought it at uh, Best Buy, and I gave the guy my phone number. I can't remember his last name, but the guy was like, "Are you Paul like blank?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's the mystery guy." I was like, "He's been
Right.
solved." I was like, "This is crazy." It's been like what I had my phone since I was 13 years old. I was like, "This has been a 10-year mystery.
And
Like it's been
speaking of digital
solved."
footprint, I'm sure that Best Buy had a profile picture for this man. A lot of the
I don't know.
services,
Pre 2013, it's pretty tough to get a profile
maybe not,
picture.
but I know some companies force you to take a profile picture nowadays for your business. Oh man. Anyways, I heard that you dropped a research paper. Do you
We
want to
did.
talk about that?
We dropped it.
Well, we yes, we dropped a research paper.
You had one, or we had one, but you wrote it. You had one specifically today surrounding, I know, ChatGPT 5.6 and Fable 5, the differentiation of like the cost of the tokenization of them. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty intriguing, especially how it kind of laid out that the easier task, even though in the harder task, Sol 5.6 spends less tokens. Believe it or not, in the easier task, it actually spends like 80% more. What was the number on that?
So what we concluded was we needed harder tasks. We had 9 tasks, and Fable 5 on medium, low, or high, and Soul on low, medium, high, ultra high were able to effectively solve all of the tasks. We didn't record the timing that it took on the task, but there was a few key findings that we found that you were mentioning. That Soul, if you ran it on ultra, I'm sure this data could be found anywhere, but especially for these easy runs, you really need to become aware about the task difficulty. I know with me and you, when we began using Claude, and I'm sure you can confirm this, you would do ultra think or ultra code on everything. You're not thinking about token expenditure. You're not thinking about cost efficiency and optimization. So you run, I want my model to be the best, therefore I'll do ultra think and ultra code on every task. And what this showed is that it chewed through 80% more tokens when you ran it on ultra compared to on the low mode. But for these easy tasks, Zach, they solved and effectively did the same solution, solved the task that we provided. That included bugs, specific errors it needed to flesh out to solve the task, and it passed on every threshold. So that was the first finding. And I'll talk one more. The second finding is the way that the models think. It's really interesting. You've mentioned this before, is that Fable will orchestrate. It's a really good conductor. The person in the church who's like, da na 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 na, singing to the 12 people. I mean, my dad's dad did that, so that's why I came
No,
up.
I know, it's just funny.
Yeah. Or the guy from that one movie, with the dude who got a concussion from the drums, who still came to the concert because the dude was such a
I don't
hard.
know. I have
But
no
anyway,
idea.
so Claude will like think, plan, even if you don't have a skill invoked. It has like 6 stages before it effectively executes the task. Soul or GPT 5.6 just one shots it. It was effectively able to solve these easier problems, but it one shotted them compared to going through like 6 separate iterations. Now,
So it didn't test as much.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that it didn't test as much, but it was
'Cause
compiled
I'd
into
be interested
one.
on that one.
I will we'll run the research again with harder experiments to dive a little bit deeper. This was just like a diagnostic test, wanted to get something
Yeah,
out.
no, I know it was high level.
But it
I'd
was
be interested
interesting.
to see what that
Fable had a
come up.
higher, so there's a difference between intake tokens and output tokens, and Claude had a higher amount of output tokens, probably because of the orchestrator sequence it ran compared to Soul. Those were the biggest key findings that we found, but basically, we need harder challenges. I mean, Fable 5 Soul, they're good models. You can't give it 2 plus 2, but I'm going to tell you 1 plus 2 is 4. There can't be like, I know that's not a bug, but you know what I'm saying. It needs to be a bit more complicated compared to what I put in and it ingested.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting because we kind of just like touched on it with like the stress testing type of thing. So I was on the phone with my Uncle Scott, this past week, um, and he was kind of explaining to me that LLMs actually are not going to be the way. Like LLMs are not going to be basically AI as we know it today is not going to be what like solves all the problems, right? And at first I was a little bit apprehensive about it because I was like, we're seeing the way in which these things are growing, how much better they're getting. Um, but he broke it down for me and it made a lot of sense because when you think about it, yes, you can use your natural language to like depict that you want something, but natural language is like very limited, right? And he was like, basically like Zach, like describe a piece of bread to me. Like, what does it look like? And I was like, I don't know. It's bread. Like, what do you mean? Describe a piece of bread to me.
I mean, the circumference has a different color
You
compared to
can't.
the inside, but
It's
they're both
really
brown.
tough.
It's like, I don't know how to describe what bread looks like.
Exactly.
It's
So,
soft.
so he was like, that's the same basic, basically like parameter that LLMs are going to run into. And I'm sure like if you've been vibe coding type of thing and you're trying to do any UI, like user interface or user experience, UX, you're running into a lot of these problems where it's not listening. Even though you feel like you're depicting exactly what you want, you're not because you're basically saying I want bread and it's like I don't know what bread looks like. Like how do I give you that? So we'll come up with some type of kind of AI slop type of thing. Obviously it will get better, but what you're starting to see really interestingly um, is a lot of platforms out there are basically creating the entire thing and then each artifact on that um, master artifact, if you will, or master website or whatever the case is, you're able to use your natural language on each thing, right? Or you're able to use a reference image and you can go create a reference image and then upload the reference image and use the reference image for the LLM to use. Now, the problem is that's also limited. So there's this new model coming out. It's called a world model where you're actually able to run simulations. So it runs real world simulations, not like simulations on testing the code. Like it runs real world simulations on gravity. Because how do you describe gravity to an AI, to an LLM? Well, it already knows. The world models already know what gravity is and how it impacts and how it is used. and it can basically test gravity back and forth, know exactly what it is, but then also test it against another thing. So what he kind of broke down was like what these LLMs struggle with, they're really good at telling you what the past is. They're very bad at predicting the future. I think they'll get better at predicting the future because they'll be able to reason better with past knowledge. But the thing with these world models that are so amazing is that they'll be able to run simulations over and over and over and over and over again until it can give you the exact output that you want. Um, so I do think, we're at like a fork in the road right now where it's like it feels like AI is gonna head this way where you are gonna have some type of complete autonomy. And I've talked about this with you before and with others about how yes, you'll have complete autonomy with AI eventually, but you will have companies that purely pride themselves on being human made, like handcrafted, right? There's handcrafted companies that were conceived after the Industrial Revolution, right? Because it felt more premium to have a handcrafted product versus the machine-made product, even though the machine-made product may have been better quality. It's really interesting to see this fork in the road of like, where are we headed with LLMs? Are LLMs going to be what get us to autonomy within artificial intelligence, or is it going to be this new thing that's coming through, which is the world model? And how fast is that going to happen? Because while so many people think technology grows linearly, it's exponential. Like we said earlier, right? 2022 is a chatbot. It's replacing some entry-level white-collar jobs in 3 years. Where's it going to be in the next 2? You know? Like, and then add the world model on top of that. It's like, what is going to happen?
So that was a lot.
Sorry for the rant.
That was a lot of compact. So I do want to digest this information. What I noticed from these world
/ compact that.
These world models that I noticed, and I took a class in college that was related to robotics, is these world models are related to physical machinery. So the bottleneck is initially the cost per price to create the machinery. I wouldn't say that I think autonomy is the inherent goal, but I think the issue that I want to bring up with your everybody can have a hunch. And what I think a lot of people do is they expect and wait for a new model to become the best. And I've actually taken the adversarial approach to say, what do I do with what I'm working with? I'm not LeBron James, but I still want to get to the NBA, but I'm 6'3". I don't have long arms. I'm not naturally genetic. But I want to put in the same work as LeBron. Therefore, could I theoretically get to the NBA? And that's kind of a comparison between, let's say, the first Claude model compared to LeBron being Fable 5 initially, right? And these models are going to get better. They're going to continue to train, and they're going to practice all day. That's what Anthropic is doing to become better. But how can we as a user continue to use these models and maximize the amount of output that we can produce with what we have? So we can always relate and say that the next thing is coming and produce, oh, Mythos is coming. And I see a lot of YouTubers doing this. They're always talking about the anticipation of the next product, which leads to excitement for their audience and anticipation. But I've been subscribing to this theory where we can actually work with what we have and produce a better output. Whenever you take that approach, you stop thinking about, and I think your point is really interesting, what you mentioned at the end, we're at a fork in the road. There's this the robotic industry has been heavily incorporated on from Elon Musk talking about going to Mars or the moon and producing robots in a factory that can duplicate themselves. I think it's fascinating. And, Neo came out. Neo was the first AI robot product that can be put in your house to do your laundry, your dishes, make your bed.
It's not out yet.
Well, it deployed. It was a product you could purchase.
Yes, it's a pre-sale or whatever it's called.
Sure, it was a pre-sale, except they found out that people were watching their house. It wasn't fully deployed, and a lot of these AI products have done this before. There was another guy who he was a genius. I forgot his name, Ethan Wong maybe, and he was a math genius, prodigy from the age of 5, built his own product, and it produced $200 million in initial private equity funding, if that's the wording, and it was complete rubbish because he or fabricated the testing. So whenever the model was supposed to do this, it would just the model was like, I can only do this, compared to if you ask me something else, it didn't know how to. So I'm not saying that the world language models they could definitely become better. And I think that's the future, is like incorporating these, like an Opus 4.8 into a robot.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be, I think they will be better in their area.
It's
Like
just
they'll both kind of rely on each other.
It's
If
just
that makes
it's
sense.
interesting because you mentioned it as like, you can solve gravity, you can solve this, and the sensory components are very important. Being able to perceive reality, and it's like the rovers that they're putting on Mars. These rovers have a computer vision component where they're able to visualize what's going on in live time. And I've worked on a project before using computer vision. I don't know much about it, but it's very interesting, where that's what it seems to be the core of the world language models. This is a concept called computer vision, which is literally as it sounds. It's the vision of computers, them being able to see something and diagnose and therefore produce an output from it. And if that's what world language models means, and these companies are going to become mass producers for these products that are doing your laundry and doing your dishes, what I mentioned before. And obviously we can talk about this more when we have more information about it. You might have more information than me.
No, I don't.
I
I
this is
really
this
don't.
is this
What I
is
just said is like
the
about as
information
much
that
as
you
I
have.
have. But I mean, from like, an ability to contextualize it and like kind of like wrap your head around it from a higher level,
Right.
it makes sense, because it is like when you are using these LLMs, you do get to a certain point where it's like, okay, it's not working. Like it's not, moving the exact thing that I said to move, or whatever the case is. And then you do have to use something more manual like Figma, or like actually, go in and manually
Right,
code
right, right, right,
something.
right.
Um, but it's just knowing that there is definitely some type of parameter that it's going to be kind of confined by. It's going to get to some type of point where humans aren't going to really be able to massage it past a certain point. I do think, though, it may not matter, right? It may get to a point where it's able to compile so much data and understand human psychology so much that it doesn't even matter if a person is like massaging it or whatever the case is, because it will just understand the psychology of
Right.
what a person
I
wants.
mean, we saw whenever Fable 5 initially dropped for those 3 days. I
Mm.
mean, we were able to launch a full 3D spec product. I mean, I had a man that could move WASD style like Minecraft on a mountain. It would do the zoom in. It looked cinematographic, animated, and lively, where the snow was falling from the sky. It had huge mountains. It had barriers on where the person could go. There was no issues that needed to be run and to push to a platform like GitHub and be like, hey, as a organization, we need to focus on these issues. I mean, it was essentially a one shot. The UI has always been an if, but that's why I've kind of been like whenever Fable 5 released and we were able to use the 3D modeling from 3JS, it was like, wow, I am able to get this output. And the only bad thing that looks from this is the 2D rendering of like the UI like stuff. You know what I mean? So we saw that before with Figma, and that's a very fair point to say. We're currently in the stage where AI engineering is all about optimizing the amount of token usage. From my methodology and my information that I've entailed, is it's all about token compute, and it's about optimizing Claude so you don't have to massage it as frequently, and it's supposed to be human ingestible and get to the right mindset that you're equally agreeing with it on, and then it provokes and invokes the next prompt, and it reduces the probability that it will come into an issue, is essentially what I'm trying to get to. There's more towards that, but you might be right, where at one point they might just drop Mythos, and it is so understanding of what we need. I don't want to say everything, but what humans require and what they're looking for, that there's no need to be an AI engineer, because anyone can do what you're doing with improper wording, with not the proper skill files, with not the proper repository or information included in Claude that says, hey, this is how I like my structure to work out.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I've thought about this before where it's like, it just seems, right now we're at a point where AI is not good enough. AI is not good enough. It's amazing, right? You can make a software as a service pretty much overnight, right? You can make, of course, if you have the right harnessing and know how to massage it correctly, you can make a lot of different things like very quickly compared to what used to be years and a lot of money and investment that would go into it. What I'm starting to think about is when you're making those software as a services overnight, quote unquote, right? You're using a lot of different softwares to get there, right? You're using 11 Labs, or you're using Higgsfield's MCP, or you're using whatever, you're using Homebrew, or whatever the case is, right? When you're first starting. What I've started to think about is once AI gets to a point where it's absolutely unstoppably amazing is when you won't need to go get 11 Labs API key. Why? Because it will go, don't worry about it. I already built the voice for you. Don't worry about it. I already built the video model for you.
Right.
I already built it all. So you don't even have to go get an API key, MCP, nothing, because it will just take care of that for you. That's when it's going to be like, oh my gosh. Like it's, and you and I have talked about this where it'll be basically you pick Google, you pick Anthropic or Claude, or you pick OpenAI or Grok or whatever model you want. And that'll be your choice. You download it and you will ask for it to do things. You will ask about things, whatever the case is. It will have access to all your data within your computer, right? The data architecture piece, and it will take care of it for you. It'll know what you need before you need it. And it will know exactly how to build it, just how you want it.
Yeah. And honestly, we can talk about theory and you love to predict.
I love theorizing.
And I think it's great. And
because I think if you can, I mean, obviously there are the conspiracists out there where it's like, oh, I'm theorizing and I'm planning for the future and buying like, Dwight Schrute piles of beans so that in case the apocalypse happens, like I'm going to be okay. But it's like when we're in this space right now, it's like, it's so new, right? And there's so many different ways it can go, right? The MIT study, I think, had like 24 different ways that AI could end up. And it was on the scale of good and bad, right? But it's like, there's so many different ways this thing can go. And it's really a lot of fun to like sit and think like, where is this going to go? Yeah. How's this going to impact people? How is it going to work? Right? Like it is a very interesting thing to think through. I mean, we're living through another industrial revolution.
I want to talk about, I remember being a kid and it's sort of the concept of data ingestion. And a lot of people talk about it with the news, whether you're on Fox or CNN, you may be encountering a specific bias because of the source that you're reading. And I think even with you, whenever you read this MIT study, what did it say? It said one of the outcomes was AI just overtakes and becomes the emperor of the world.
Yeah, basically it was like we're going to be enslaved to AI was one of the things.
Right.
I don't know how true that is.
No. But if we think about it, and I'm not trying to get into the nitty gritty, but I'd love to talk about it with you as kind of a last segment here, where it's like,
what time is it? I think we got to head out soon.
It's 10:50.
Yeah, so we got to head out in a couple minutes.
So let's think about that for a little bit. When I'm thinking about data, and I think anyone can think this way, it's like, how can I capture this data, especially if it's in the future? So you can run simulations, and I wanted to mention that point is that you were talking about running hundreds of simulations, and I think you meant a specific point about the computer vision side, where it's like you're iterating over 1 second, take a picture, next second, take a picture, where you have so much data to where you can compile the next best outcome. And it's not a Markov chain. I don't even know what that's called. But when we're talking about What were we talking about?
You're talking through
Oh,
simulations.
yes. So with the simulations, Claude can do that. It can iterate through simulations. You ask it to do a loop. You tell it a specific threshold based on my knowledge, and it will pass to that threshold. Like, hey, I want this to be an 8 out of 10. Here's how I define an 8 compared to a 5. But back to my main point, it's how do you ingest this data where it's like an MIT study. We see MIT as super credible, except I ask myself, how did you capture this data? Like, what are the reliable standards that you put into this study? Maybe we read the paper, and even if you read the paper, a lot of times it's too complicated for an average consumer to understand. So they just take the headline. And if I was an average consumer, I would see the AI overtaking as an emperor, and maybe it's a 4% chance, but there's still 4%.
Yeah. I mean, that's scary within and of itself.
It's very scary, and especially that MIT is publishing this paper, which I don't want to say is falsified.
There's a lot of fear, and I think what's really unfortunate is the way that the media is starting to cover it is like very fear-mongering. It's very much like, if you embrace this, you are going to get displaced, like you aren't going to have a job, this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, like,
It's the inverse. If you don't integrate this into your daily practice, you will be displaced.
I mean, there was just a study that came out. It said if you are integrating AI, your business is actually growing employees at a 10% rate. So it's completely opposite. And and history repeats itself, of course. When you go back and look at the early 2000s, when the birth of e-commerce started to happen, there were a lot of businesses that came from nothing and thrived and crushed. And there were a lot of businesses that, of course,
like Sears,
that didn't embrace the new. And they were like, we're good. We make money. Why would we change anything?
LeBron,
Don't fix it.
we're
Don't
good.
fix it if it's not broken, right? They got ran over. If you're not embracing AI and you are not, and I don't mean embracing AI by like completely rid of all of your employees, automate all your workflows. No, I mean like strategically use it where it needs to be used, right? Like we've told businesses, if you're trying to make a sale, do not use an AI to make the sale for you. Do not have an AI take the phone call, because nobody wants to talk to a robot.
I've tried that. We actually did an experiment at Cause and Effect where we gave 100 leads an automated phone call from 11 Labs. It had the data on our business, including the website, the script that it should follow, kind of the harness in order to ensure it didn't deviate from conversation. Completely failed. I mean, it was like a 0 out of 70 ended up staying on the, I mean, maybe 30 out of 70 stayed on the phone after 4 seconds, and 0 converted into a call or follow back appointment.
But here's like the beauty, right? It's like, don't actually play the game with AI sales agents. But what you can do, right, in like baseball, right? You hit off the tee and then you play the game. But if you don't hit off the tee, you won't be as good in the game. So use AI maybe to practice in sales situations.
And also use AI or the ump who can detect whether you got on base or whether that was an out.
Exactly. Because it's going to be a very, of course, if you prompt it this way, it's going to be a very unbiased grader.
Deterministic task. Something that can be done repetitively, X equals Y, every single time. That's what AI is really good at. And whenever you put it in a situation where you're like prompting Claude, and most people are doing this is to everyone. It's, I want to build a website. I want it to be gray and black. I want it to have cool UI. I hate to say it. And, you know, a lot of people are going to say that there's a better thing on the future. Fable 6 is going to come out and finally get this right.
Fable 5, please build Fable 6.
Exactly. I've seen this from so many YouTubers who are like, I built Fable 5 with Opus. And I guess the main point that I'm trying to reach to is, while we're not in that era, let's at least exist with what we have and make it more efficient.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of my entire methodology.
I mean, I think it's one of the greatest methodologies ever. I mean, Andre Carpathy, right? I mean, you gave me this great analogy. Andre Carpathy with Sonnet 4.6 is going to be better than me or you with Opus 4.8, right? Because it's about like the ability that he has as an understanding of AI, understanding of coding, fronting and back end, understanding of security, understanding of debugging, understanding of all these different things that it takes to build a very sturdy house, because he completely understands exactly how to utilize the engine
Right.
of the car,
The
right?
or not
Build
the
the
engine, but
build the body of the F1 car
yeah, the body.
around the engine.
Right. So
Exactly.
you know what's interesting as a final note is just want to say this to anybody who is anti-AI. Andre Carpathy is a computer vision expert. Elon Musk has credited him to be the second or first best computer vision expertise.
He's the savant of one of the savants of AI as it is right
Yes, AI and especially computer vision. And now he's signed with Anthropic, I believe. And
now. Dude, I posted the funniest. I'm sorry to cut you
that's
off.
fine.
I posted the funniest comment about that when he left, because I think he left OpenAI for Anthropic, and then a couple days later, I think somebody at Anthropic left Anthropic for Google or something.
Continuous
And
cycle.
I commented, I was like, wow, the day has come where we are watching developers leave companies almost like it is free agency in football.
Yeah,
It's like
that's
just
hilarious.
just wait until Anthropic is like Anthropic has finalized a trade with Google to trade Andre Carpathy to Google for 3 Stanford interns and
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I get dude, it seems
and a
to
bunch of
yeah.
compute.
But he that's hilarious. He uses and this guy's the expert in AI, as we've already
He's
agreed
one of the
upon.
experts,
And he
yes.
uses AI coming from January when the models really upgraded, 90% AI, 10% human intervention.
Oh,
I'm not
with
even at
one of the
that.
new models?
Yeah. From January. I'm not talking about Fable 5. I'm talking about when Opus 4.6
Yeah, I mean,
came
I
out.
saw like Google's, I think it was 2.5 Flash Pro, Gemini Pro or
Right.
something like that. It was like 75% of the model was trained by its own data,
Yeah,
like by
but
itself.
Andrej was not at Anthropic at the time, but he's using these top front models. I don't know which one he's using, but you just talk about AI in your workflow whenever you do become an efficient engineer in the field compared to waiting on the next model to release. He became an expert, and he was an expert before, and then AI really became big, and he acted on that and is now using AI in his workflow 90% of the time. I'm not even 90% of the time. It does his tasks 90% of the time. And I'm
Yeah,
not,
because I mean, now it's just about loop engineering, really. It's about harness engineering and loop engineering. It's
yeah,
about like getting it to learn about how you like things done so that you don't have to repetitively do those things. Even
right.
if it's like not an automation that you're building, right? It will understand exactly how you like videos curated, like the Nate Herc thing that we were talking about earlier. But I really do kind of want to like tone down here because you and I have to go pretty soon. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One thing on loop engineering, I don't believe it's as a core component into the industry as harness engineering is and AI
oh no, not
engineering
at
as a
all. Yeah,
whole.
yeah, yeah.
But I've heard
They
about
do
loop
they can
engineering.
go hand in hand very well.
Yeah, I've heard about loop engineering, but I've also heard that having an agent delegated to run a specific issue over and over again until it gets it right, very good. Having an agent do a loop on every single task, like every single issue you have,
Not good.
not
Yeah,
good.
yeah, not good
So
at
it's like
all.
very good for like microscopic specific tasks until it gets it done right. And I think that's kind of like been solved. There was this whole concept called Ralph, which is basically the loop engineer where it goes from one task, does it until it gets right, then does the next task. And we'll talk more about that in a future episode, but I guess we're at a good stopping point right now.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely a good first go at it.
Yeah, and
This is fun.
next week we are going to be bringing on a guest, ChatGPT Live. ChatGPT just released its new model Soul, and with that, as an accompanying guest, has been ChatGPT Live.
It has accepted the invitation.
It has not only accepted the invitation, but it was emphatic, and it was excited to be a part of the program.
Giddy, as some may say.
Extremely giddy. No one will see that video. Inside joke. If you watch the videos, you will know. But we'll cut it there. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week. What time? Friday at 9. Well, we won't post it.
Whatever. We'll just post it when we post it.
We post it when we post it, guys. You get it when we give it. All right. Goodbye.
Yo.
All right.